Starting off this countdown, we have real monsters. This show is about monsters in training. Ickis, Crumb, and Oblina are all monsters who attend a school to learn how to frighten humans. Now, the design of these monsters alone are terrifying. Let's start off with the scariest looking one, Crumb. Just look at him. Okay, he's a weird creature that literally has detached eyes, so he's always stuck holding them in the air. And then he's just covered in hair and looks disturbing. His scare tactic is to use his grossness to frighten humans. Next, we have Oblina. Oblina is a long black and white serpent looking monster. She can contort her body in many ways and can scare humans with her teeth, lips, and tongue. Then you have Ickis, who looks like a little gremlin. Ickis can become red and his teeth turn sharp when he scares people. These monsters alone are they're horrifying. But honestly, I applaud the animators. Like, they definitely got creative with these characters. Like, who comes up with this naked looking dude that's holding up his eyes? Incredible. In our fourth spot, we have Tales from the Crypt Keeper. I'm sure all you 90s kids remember this show, because I certainly do. So this show was inspired by the comic series and the adult HBO show Tales of the Crypt. They then altered it to make it child friendly. So they removed the blood and the gore from the live action show, but there were still some episodes that were quite horrifying, especially for young children. Alright, so the Crypt Keeper plays the host of the show who introduces what each episode is going to be about. The series then goes on and talks about classic legends like vampires, zombies, and werewolves, so on. Now, in the episode titled The Weeping Woman, Camille and Mildred visit a haunted Victorian mansion. At night, they are woken up by creepy moaning and objects flying around. That's when they see the Weeping Woman, an old, eyeless, and teethless woman with scraggly gray hair and long black nails. The second night, the woman looks even more terrifying with red glowing eyes. She ends up chasing the girls around the house. Then you have the episode titled Sharon Share-alike. This is an episode about a girl named Shauna who refuses to share her toys with her little sister Katie. As a result, she hides one of her old toy dolls in the vent so her sister can't play with it. Then the doll ends up coming alive and haunting her. This episode is freaking creepy, with the doll just coming alive and saying things like, "You're not nice, I don't like you," in that creepy doll voice. The doll ends up chasing her all over the house, giggling and chanting her name. If you find dolls creepy, then that episode is not for you. Moving on, at number 3, we have Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy is another classic cartoon. This one is known to be more dark and twisted. So Ren and Stimpy is a satirical animated show about Ren, an aggressive, mentally unstable chihuahua, and Stimpy, a dim-witted cat. Now, okay, yes, I understand, the show is meant to be more dark for the sake of comedy, but there are still moments where people have definitely been creeped out. In fact, one episode of Ren and Stimpy titled Man's Best Friend was banned from Nickelodeon because of its extreme violence. But yet, that's not the only episode that's been filled with explicit content. In the episode titled Stimpy's Fan Club, Ren and Stimpy receive a bunch of fan mail. However, it's all for Stimpy and none for Ren. That night, Ren goes completely insane from the jealousy. He stays awake, talking to himself and feeling guilt for writing letters back, insulting the fans. In this scene, they actually make a really clever reference to the play Macbeth, with Ren claiming that his hands are dirty and the dirt won't come off. The episode continues with him planning to murder Stimpy in his sleep by snapping his neck. His brain then begins to sting and swell before he's engulfed by the flames of hell. Oh, did that rhyme? It did. In another episode titled Rubber Nipple Salesman, Ren and Stimpy own a rubber nipple business and go door to door in their neighborhood to sell their product. They knock on the door of one house and a horse answers the door. This horse is clearly a deranged killer. He ends up looking at them and saying, "Maybe I should make another mistake. Maybe 2 more." The way he says it is just way more creepier. Then he pulls out a walrus and asks them if they have any rubber walrus protectors. The walrus begs them to call the police. Okay, it's actually quite hilarious, but then if you think about it, very, very creepy. In our second spot, we have Martin Mystery. Honestly, I love this show. It's really well done. It's like the perfect balance between comedy, mystery, and horror. And can't lie, I had a little crush on Martin, but I know I wasn't the only one. So this show surrounds Martin Mystery and Diana Lombard, 2 16-year-old step-siblings that work for an organization referred to as the Center. Basically, their job is to solve cases and protect people from supernatural threats. And we can't forget about Java, a 200,000-year-old caveman that also helps them with their investigations. So there are multiple episodes that are just completely messed up. The one that I remember giving me nightmares when I was younger is the episode titled Revenge of the Doppelganger. Basically in this episode, women are being attacked by some kind of electrical shadow that completely erases their faces. Again, I'm rhyming, I'm so good. Okay. In the episode, this creature attacks multiple women that all have similar features and steals their faces, leaving them looking like creepy mannequins. And then we have the episode The Body Swappers, which is a reference to the movie The Thing. This episode begins with a young girl fleeing for her life from some kind of creature. All you can hear are her screams as the monster attacks her. Basically, this organism creature goes around using humans as its hosts. In the episode, the organism gets to Diana and eventually turns her into this monster with like large sharp teeth. Ugh. The monster itself is a big slimy creature with huge fangs and long tentacles. There are plenty of other horrifying creatures seen throughout the series, like the Boogeyman, a giant humanoid with red glowing eyes and 3 branches on his forehead, Hexen, a 15-foot tall eyeless creature, and the Mothman. No explanation needed for that one. And in our number 1 spot, we have Courage the Cowardly Dog. How on earth was I allowed to watch this show as a kid? From possession to demons and sadistic villains, this show is anything but kid-friendly. So this show is about Courage, a pinkish-purple anthropomorphic dog, and his owners, Eustace and Muriel Bagg. Each episode, they are encountered by a paranormal or supernatural entity or force, and Courage, who is anything but courageous, has to save his owners. Now, this show is just filled with creepy villains, gore, and violence. One of the episodes that scared me as a kid was the one titled King Ramses' Curse. That's right, the Egyptian pharaoh makes an appearance in this episode. So Eustace ends up finding and keeping an ancient Egyptian slab. As a result, he is visited by King Ramses. The king appears outside their home and just sways back and forth, repeating in a creepy whisper, "Return the slab." That alone can send shivers down anyone's spine. Then you have the episode Freaky Fred, where Muriel's cousin Fred comes into town to visit. Fred looks insane with his creepy wide-mouthed smile and slanted eyebrows. What's even worse is that he has creepy inner dialogue that only the audience can hear, which, may I add, is entirely in rhymes. And then we find out that he has an obsession with shaving people until they are bald. He ends up getting locked in the bathroom with Courage, where he shaves off all of his fur. You can see Courage shaking in fear as Fred does the deed. And while this happens, sounds of creepy children singing fill the screen. And let's not forget about the episode where Muriel gets possessed. That's right, she gets possessed from demons in her mattress. In one scene, she is laughing menacingly while her head spins around in a circle before her head just falls off. In another scene, she opens her mouth and a giant bumpy tongue extends out and licks Eustace. Then she vomits green slime all over him. Obviously, it's a reference to the Exorcist movies. But in every episode, there is at least one scary or disturbing thing that happens.
Coming in at number 5, we have Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice aired back in the 90s and focused on the life of goth girl Lydia Dietz and her undead friend Beetlejuice as they explore the netherworld, a ghoulish, wacky, monster, supernaturalistic realm inhabited by ghosts, ghouls, goblins, and zombies. Like many spooky shows, it relied heavily on parodying famous films, books, and TV shows, including the episode Brides of Funkenstein, which is of course an homage to the Bride of Frankenstein, something most children would not pick up on, nor should they. Now, throughout the series, Beetlejuice attempts to scam residents of the netherworld as well as the real world, including an incident from babysitting in which he literally sits on the grotesque netherworld babies to then trying to beat them in an auto race. Some episodes of the children's show are surprisingly self-aware, including the episode where he acts like the ghost with the most money as CEO of a huge TV station who has absolutely zero compassion. Saying all of this, the show is significantly tamer than the movie, with the cartoon version being portrayed as mischievous rather than outright malevolent. Saying that though, the show is a lot to handle for the average kid, but not me, because I'm Coming in at number 4, we have The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is a cartoon that aired on the Cartoon Network back in the early 2000s and followed 2 children, Billy, a slow-witted happy-go-lucky boy, and Mandy, his dark and cynical best friend, who, after winning a limbo game to save Billy's pet hamster, gain the mighty Grim Reaper as their best friend in eternal servitude and slavery. Throughout the course of the show, Billy and Mandy use Grimm's supernatural abilities and powers to venture into supernatural locations, such as the underworld or the netherworld, inhabited by monstrous and grotesque beasts. Oh yeah, the show is also filled to the brim with body horror. saying that this is certainly not a show for faint-hearted children, even packs a punch as an adult. Now, Grim is terrifying to look at, with him being portrayed as the classic Grim Reaper, often wearing a long black robe with red on the hood. He's also around 6'6" and weighs only 77 pounds. Not to mention, he is also seen with his scythe, an object that is said to be of tremendous magical energy and power in the series, and the source of most of Grimm's abilities and powers. It's also a weapon that can kill people. Coming in at number 3, we have Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Tales from the Crypt Keeper is an animated TV series which aired on YTV in Canada back in the 90s, and was based on the 1950s EC comic series Tales from the Crypt, as well as the live-action TV series of the same name. However, Tales from the Crypt Keeper was certainly milder, with it being made for children. However, saying that, it still managed to pack a punch and a lot of scares. The series details the Crypt Keeper telling different horror stories to the viewers, each with a lesson to be learned. Very educational. However, the episodes are genuinely twisted, with some of them being truly terrifying. For example, the episode Gorilla's Paw is essentially a retelling of W.W. Jacobs' The Monkey's Paw, which follows an unpopular kid who steals a gorilla's paw in order to be a part of a secret club, but he quickly discovers that the paw can grant wishes with twisted results. Or more terrifying still, the Haunted Mine episode, which follows a boy who visits his aunt, during which time he finds himself stuck inside of an abandoned mine, filled with unusual shapes and dark secrets. Spooky stuff. Coming in at number 2, Real Monsters. One of my favourite shows growing up, which says a lot. Real Monsters is a cartoon which aired on Nickelodeon and focused on 3 young monsters. Ikis, Ablina and Crumb, who attend a school for monsters under a city dump and learn to frighten humans. The show still haunts me to this day, with it including some of the scariest monsters I've ever seen. That's a bit of a stretch, but I mean it. For example, Massage Monster, who looked like this, or the Library Monster, who looked like this. Lovely stuff and definitely child friendly. The show is garish but blissfully silly, with wildly perverse humour that many children would certainly not understand, nor should they. There is also Grumble, a tall green-blue monster with 2 tufts of hair, a beard and a tail, and wears a belt and a red pump on each of his 4 feet. Grumble's assistant is Zimbo, voiced by Tim Curry, a horror icon, who resembles a bee with 1 mammalian leg and a humanoid face with green hair, all sounding pretty frightening to a small child, right? Honestly, I still think about the show and how it affected my life. I think it really made me who I am as a person, which is royally f***ed in the head. I kind of love that though. And finally, coming in at number 1, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Courage the Cowardly Dog is an animated horror comedy series that aired on the Cartoon Network back in the late 90s/early 2000s. Now, the show follows the title character, a pink anthropomorphic dog who lives with an elderly couple in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. For the most part, in each episode, the trio are thrown into bizarre and disturbing misadventures, which tend to involve the paranormal and supernatural. However, for a show that is aimed towards children, it certainly had a fascination with dark, surreal humour and horror atmosphere. Now, the show successfully embraced all manner of horror, creating a show that lingered in the minds of many children for years. Some of the particularly chilling episodes included King Ramses' Curse, as well as the House of Discontent, the latter following the trio being plagued by poltergeists that need them to grow crops, otherwise they'll be forced to leave the farm. The series even dedicates a few episodes to classic horror movies which children would of course know nothing about, at the time anyway. For example, the episode Demon in the Mattress featured Muriel being possessed by a demonic mattress, a clear homage to The Exorcist, film certainly not made for children. Even now as an adult, it's hard not to feel an overwhelming sense of discomfort when watching Courage the Cowardly Dog. Coming in at number 5, we have Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is the oldest Disney cartoon, with him being the mascot of the Walt Disney Company, with him being created back in 1928. The famous anthropomorphic mouse wears red shorts, large yellow shoes and white gloves, and is one of the world's most recognizable characters. Back in 1955, a television series was created about the character titled The Mickey Mouse Club, running up until 1996. Mickey generally appears alongside his girlfriend Minnie Mouse, his pet dog Pluto, his friends Donald Duck and Goofy, and his nemesis Pete, among others. Though originally crafted as a cheeky, lovable rogue, he has since become a nice guy, usually seen as an honest and bodacious hero. hero. However, views may change about him when you see this piece of art posted by Fallen Guardian 2 on Reddit. The image shows Mickey Mouse as a butcher, chopping up pieces of pig and presumably his friends. The artist aptly titled it, "I don't know about this meat, it has a bit of a goofy aftertaste." Yikes, Mickey has lost his damn mind. Honestly, if the Mickey Mouse Club went down this route, I'd be an avid viewer. What a concept, a murderous Mickey Mouse. R.I.P. Goofy. Coming in at number 4, we have Thomas the Tank Engine. Now, this is one of the most terrifying things I have ever seen. I absolutely hate it so very much. Thomas the Tank Engine is an anthropomorphized fictional steam locomotive in the Railway series books and eventual TV spin-off series Thomas and Friends. He is a steam engine and has a number 1 painted on his side. The show features the train going on adventures with his fellow locomotives on the island of Soda. However, Thomas is apt to get into trouble by trying too hard to be, in his words, a really useful engine, attempting to do things that are best left to bigger engines. Other members of Sir Topham Hatt's railway include Junior Engine Percy, Thomas's best friend, who is always willing to help, and Big Engine Gordon, the fastest and most powerful member of the team, who uses his superior strength to help smaller engines get out of trouble. Now, the train is nothing but friendly, but as we know, the internet is an incredibly dark place, and some folks out there have created monstrosities out of the train, including Tom Corbin, who posted this video to TikTok. The video seems to show Thomas chasing after the train controller, Sir Topham Hatt. However, Thomas is horrifically mutated and has spider legs stemming from both sides of his train as he chases down the man. Honestly, the more I watch, the scarier it gets. Coming in at number 3, we have The Fairly Odd Parents. The Fairly Odd Parents was an animated series on Nickelodeon which followed Timmy Turner, a 10-year-old boy with 2 fairy godparents named Cosmo and Wanda, and a malevolent 16-year-old babysitter named Vicky. Now, the godparents, when not granting magical wishes, remain innocuous in their fishbowl, swimming around with tiny crowns atop their heads and wands in their hands. However, one artist turned this into something absolutely terrifying. I hate it, but I also can't look away. The picture titled, "I'm sorry Timmy, I forgot to feed your fish," which seemingly shows a dead Cosmo and a very much alive Wanda. However, she now has a human-looking face full of sinister intent. She has clearly eaten Cosmo. She got a little hungry, I guess. One Reddit user responded, "The artist of the post stated, I quote, 'It is a cruel world. Survival of the fittest is very much the rule rather than the exception. Unfortunately, Cosmo was very much not the fittest. He wasn't smart, particularly powerful, nor a good mate. Thus, he had no further value other than as dinner. Do not cry, Timmy. Cosmo isn't completely gone. He is now part of me, and judging by the fact you just finished your dinner, part of you as well.'" Jesus, that sent chills up and down my spine. Wanda's lost it, but I like Wanda like this. Coming in at number 2, we have everyone's favourite, Peppa Pig. Ever since the world discovered the actual height of Peppa Pig, nothing has been the same since. The world has become bleaker, and shows darker, with posts cropping up about the pig showing us how dark she can really be. Now, in late July of 2019, Twitter went crazy after accounts began to post about the height of Peppa Pig, which it turns out is 7 feet. That's right, if you go to Google and type in Peppa Pig height, this will come up. Now, if Peppa Pig is indeed over 7 feet tall, that puts her height right up there with Shaquille O'Neal, which is absolutely terrifying. But worse is yet to come. The real fear stems from the fact that Peppa isn't even the tallest pig in her family. Not even close. Her father is 14 feet and her mother 11 feet. How terrifying is that? However, let's move away from her height for a moment because, like I said, ever since this discovery, things have gotten dark for Peppa Pig, with drawings popping up of not just her resembling a giant, but of other dark, unsettling things as well. For example, this, which shows Peppa and the whole family. However, they're not pigs. They're humans. They're humans wearing pig masks on a farm, a slaughter farm, with the dad seemingly carrying a dead body and the mother holding a pie that likely consists of a dead body. The entire picture is unsettling and reminds me a little bit of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Honestly, this picture needs to be turned into a horror movie. I'd watch. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Garfield. Garfield is a beloved comic strip and children's cartoon that was originally created by Jim Davis. It chronicles the life of the title character Garfield the cat, John Arbuckle, his human owner, and Odie, Billy, the dog. Now, the first show starring the orange cat was Garfield and Friends, which premiered back in 1988 and ran up until 1994. Now, like the comic strip, the show followed the catastrophic comedy capers of the wisecrapping, nap-taking, and lasagna-loving cat Garfield. It was a hit, resulting in more spin-offs and even a movie. However, since the beginning of his creation, there have been dark theories surrounding the beloved cat, who now spans over 40 years. Now, one dark theory, which is actually more of a meme, is titled "I'm Sorry, John," which refers to a series of Garfield-inspired artwork in which Garfield is depicted as a horror creature stalking his owner, with most of the art stating the words "I'm sorry, John" and "I require lasagna." It became such a hit across the web that in 2018 the character was featured in the SCP Foundation as SCP-3166, which is absolutely crazy. Following that, on September 18th, 2018, horror artist William Burke posted a black and white drawing of the cat on Instagram. It depicted Garfield as a monster holding his owner John Arbuckle in his hands and demanding to be given lasagna. Another creation shows a rotund Garfield completely out of control with his eating habits, who has now resorted to cannibalism. In the sketch, he appears to resemble a walrus more than a cat, and I can't help but think back to the movie Tusk. That film still haunts me in all the right ways. Honestly, if this is how Garfield looked, maybe I would have given his show the time of day. Another drawing shows Garfield resembling a creature from The Thing, stating the words, "I'm sorry, John." Honestly, will someone just feed this cat lasagna so he doesn't kill us all?